I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
We watched episode 1 of Tyler Perry's She the People, now streaming on Netflix. Why are we doing this? Because our coverage of Tyler Perry's Beauty in Black, also streaming on Netflix, was quite popular for us. And we received several messages asking if we would do this. So here we are.
I feel like a kid who got home from school and I've been punished for something my parents found out about. That's what this felt like.
So a few things to get out of the way. So this series is being handled the way Beauty in Black was, which is they filmed 16 episodes, but they're being broken up into 2 parts. So the first 8 episodes dropped on
May 22nd.
May 22nd. And then the second set of 8 episodes will drop on
August 14th. So very arbitrary since it's all done in the can and all shot presumably in 1 week.
If even.
This is supposed to be a comedy, by the way.
Well, let's get into that. But first, let's describe what the premise of the series is. As she tries to shine in politics, Mississippi's first Black lieutenant governor must manage her zany family and overcome a boss who's stuck in the past. So yes, so while Beauty in Black is classified as a drama that turned out to be a straight up comedy, this one is more set up like a
sitcom,
a comedic sitcom, in that the episodes are half the length.
Mm-hmm.
But the format of each episode is not like a traditional sitcom. It really does. I don't know. I mean, I'm not surprised Tyler Perry doesn't know what he's doing, but okay. So episode 1 is called Vote for Me. The premise of this episode, it's election day and Antoinette hopes to finish her campaign on a high note. But when a video of her teen daughter goes viral, things get complicated. So what do we know about Antoinette?
Antoinette Dunkerson.
She's played by Terri Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people would know her from the Steve Harvey Show.
She's been around a while, though. She had a small role in Friday.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, I know her very well from the Steve Harvey Show. And then the only other person I recognize is Jo Marie Payton, who plays Cleo, Antoinette's mother.
I straight up watched this whole episode being like, God, that lady's familiar. And then when you said it, I was like...
And of course, we should all know her as the mother from Family Matters,
mm-hmm.
which is crazy because, Harriet Winslow was a very respectable woman who, and loving wife, mother, all that. But in this series, she is
it's
like a hood grandma that... just does not translate.
You know what I wrote down about her? Because her name's Cleo. Cleo is like if Ayanla was trying to be Mom's Mabley in that Amazing Grace movie.
Oh my God, that's so specific.
Well, because that Amazing Grace also had a political angle.
Oh, that's right. Well, okay. Well, should we just start with the episode? It's very simple. So we meet Antoinette Dunkerson. What do we know about her? She is a divorcee, single mother, raising 2 teenage children. She ran for city council and won, and then is now running for lieutenant governor. And we meet her on a local morning news broadcast. And it seems like people are kind of shocked that she thought that she could make this kind of leap.
It also seems like Tyler Perry's never watched a news interview.
No. Well, we felt the same way with, what's the last thriller that was on Netflix?
Duplicity.
Those news broadcasts were ridiculous. But it's like the day... it's election day and she's doing her final campaign run. So we see her on this morning news broadcast. And the essence of it is that no one's checking for her. No one thinks she's qualified. Her teenage daughter, Lola, who needs her ass whooped, she's being very difficult.
She's your typical Tyler Perry insolent teenager.
And she's upset with her mother, Antoinette, saying, "You're ruining my life. Everyone's making fun of me." Lola goes to a fancy private school, and apparently all these white kids think it's crazy that Antoinette's running for lieutenant governor, because I'm sure all their parents think that she's not qualified. But as the day goes on, we see that Antoinette, she does some canvassing at a church in the town she grew up in, which we can get back to that scene. but the vibe of that is that no one is checking for
The
her.
vibe of that is like Jackie's back.
Yes. when, when Jackie goes back to Kenlock, Missouri.
Except where Jackie's back is a wonderful Robert Townsend film that is funny.
Well, we're going to get to what we think about the comedy in this, but things go from bad to worse because while Antoinette is at this church, everyone's phone goes off, which is a trope that always confuses me.
Does not, like an Amber Alert.
Like an Amber Alert. Everyone's like, oh my God, Antoinette's daughter is at some party twerking. They were acting like she was freebasing off of some homeless person's penis. I don't understand.
It looked pretty normal teenage behavior.
It looked like normal teenagers partying.
Being dumb.
Granted, it seemed like there was alcohol at this party with underage kids, but at that point, Antoinette realizes my political career is over. So she hops in her SUV and heads over to this house. Don't quite know how she knew where the house is, but
exactly. But you know what? The Bush twins did it, so why can't Lola?
So Antoinette gets to this party, finds her daughter, and Lola, the daughter, is dating this guy named Basil.
No, Basil is Shamika's boyfriend.
Oh gosh. So the boyfriend's Kenny.
Yes.
So Lola has this boyfriend named Kenny. And so Kenny's at the party, and both of them, Lola and Kenny, are being very disrespectful to Antoinette. Like, we don't have to listen to you. We're almost 17. Antoinette's upset, saying, like, you're my daughter. You have to do what I say. As long as you're under my roof. When you're 18, you can do what you want to do. Kenny's saying, well, she's going to live with me. And then all of a sudden, Antoinette goes on this rant and punches Kenny. And of course, all the teens are recording her.
Mm-hmm.
So the video goes viral. And at this point, Antoinette's like, everything's like, I'm cooked. She doesn't even want to go to headquarters for election night. But and I don't think it's clear to us who this person is to Antoinette, but Shamika, played by Jade Novah.
Who's also a singer.
Jade Novah's a singer.
Jade Novah, yeah.
But she's saying her assistant Shamika, whose full name is Shamika Latavia Latoya Farrah Dunkerson. So she has the same name as Antoinette. I'm assuming they're cousins.
Well, because she's calling Cleo Auntie Grandma.
Or are they sisters? They must be sisters.
I don't think she
But then why is she calling the mother Auntie Grandma?
I don't think that she would call her Auntie Grandma if they were sisters.
But then why would they have the same last name?
Well, again, they're related. Well, it's just like because Tyler Perry's terrible writing.
He's terrible at kinship roles.
Yeah, well, because he's highlighting it in all the wrong ways because we have Titus Dunkerson, the brother of Cleo, saying shit like, hey, sis. Who talks that way?
Well, let's get back to Titus in a second. But Shamika is Antoinette's assistant. And she's like, girl, you have to stop by headquarters. You know, like, you got to close this out. And then they go and everyone feels defeated when all of a sudden we see on the news that Antoinette punching Kenny and going on this rant about how she's responsible for her daughter and that she's going to do everything she can to make sure her daughter behaves goes viral, and it really resonates with voters. So then we get a scene with all these voters outside the polls talking about they need that kind of energy in the government. So then Antoinette wins the election by a landslide, and that's the end of the episode. Okay. Let's talk about this comedy because I think I was more entertained by Beauty in Black because it was unintentionally funny.
Because that was camp. Beauty in Black is failing what it sets out to do, which is camp, and this is
failing at being a comedy.
Yeah, so I guess technically that fits like a loose camp definition, but it's painful to watch something that's meant to be a comedy. It's like the new Wes Anderson film to me. Like, none of this shit works.
Okay. I think just based on episode 1, the biggest disappointment is Cleo, played by Jo Marie Payton.
Oh, yeah.
Because she is basically like Medea.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Violent, like kind of like overly sexual. Like, she's like, when we first meet her, all she's talking about, she wants to go to the strip club. And then the way she's talking about the strip club sounds like she's never been to the strip club. But
she's a caricature. There's nothing appropriate about this woman. It's kind of hard seeing a performer like that. I mean, it's great that she's getting some high profile work, but like, I don't know. I feel like she's above that.
Well, also her dialogue, it I thought that her like actually saying the words is a little unintelligible, and not because Joe Marie Payton's not a good actor. I think it's probably a stretch for her to even say these words.
Yeah.
And so it comes out really like awkwardly.
Kind of like how some of the actual actors that were hired in later John Waters films were kind of like,
Yeah,
what am
where
I doing?
yes, where it's like, yeah. Well, and you know, the writing feels so familiar because I'm thinking of in the like Medea movies, especially the Boo movies with the one actor whose first name is Hattie,
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
who Cleo kind of reminds me of that character, except a little more like a hood, I guess, because we also find out that Cleo lives on the south side of the city, and so that's supposed to be like dangerous and hood and ghetto, and so playing up all these stereotypes that I just found really just. I mean, almost anything can work if it's funny, but this is not funny. So,
Are you talking about the character played by Cassie Davis
in
in Boo? Oh no, that's Aunt Bam. God.
no, not on Bam, the one,
Oh yeah, Patrice Lovely, who's
yeah,
playing like an old woman caricature.
yeah.
But that character seems classy compared to
Well, that's
Cleo.
what I mean. It like familiar sort of comedic elements, but then in this version made to seem. I mean, even Medea is not this ridiculous.
Well, Cleo's introduced in as like this hood woman in the news interview that Antoinette is giving. And that interviewer, who I swear says the word unorthodox incorrectly.
Well,
Did you catch that?
yes, but I think it was deliberate,
Oh,
like
okay.
to show that she's ignorant.
Well, and then she's like, and you know, your mother's from the south side of town. Like, what?
Who did that reporter remind you of? She reminded me of Elizabeth Banks.
Oh, that's
They had the
sad.
same face and teeth and
Yeah,
everything.
well, you know, the white lady.
Okay, I don't have many notes because there wasn't much going on. uh, we're told so that reporter on the morning news show is criticizing Antoinette's mother Cleo, saying like, well, you know, after that incident at the funeral, and then we find out that Cleo was canvassing at a funeral, which, I mean, the only funny part of that is we see Cleo putting a pamphlet in the casket.
But that's so broad. Like,
I'm really confused by Shamika calling Cleo Auntie Grandma.
and Cleo doesn't seem to have a sense of humor either. So that character putting a flyer in the coffin seems like she's not an irreverent woman. She's just like crass and vulgar.
Yeah. Okay. Shamika has a boyfriend, Basil, and Basil is dressed in like primary colors. He looks like
Go. I liked your comparison.
I had said he looks like those birds that can talk.
A minor bird.
Yes.
That is one of the ugliest suits I've seen in maybe ever. It is an eyesore, and there's no costume change here. And we're
well, because it's all the same. Oh well, we're gonna get to the time of day.
Because I had immediate questions about the time of the day, because apparently this news interview should be the early morning show, and it's straight up noon outside at least.
And then we're at when Antoinette finds out that her daughter's at this party, it's daytime. Well, even though the party's at nighttime. But then she gets dropped off during the day. And then Antoinette's driving at night, but then she's calling her ex-husband, Cyrus, and he's playing video games with their son, and it's clearly daytime in the house.
In a different time zone, apparently.
So they're in like an alternate universe.
And then Titus they have dressed all preppy, and we need to get into all of the talk about code switching in this brief episode. But Titus has one of those, I hate that style of wearing a sweater over your shoulders. And Titus wears that sweater like that all day long, apparently.
Okay, so Antoinette's two children are Lola and Titus. So we first meet Titus, and he comes down looking like a skinny Carlton Banks. Did you think he was supposed to be gay?
Well, he seems gay.
I thought he seemed gay, especially when he calls Lola sis.
Exactly. Gays don't talk that way. He also was dressed in a way that he could have been kidnapped in the movie Get Out.
But Titus's character is supposed to be like the good kid, like he listens to his parents and he's
Yes.
obedient. And then Lola is just straight out the gate a problem.
What was those kids like the brother and sister in Back in Action, that terrible Cameron Diaz Jamie Foxx
Oh
movie?
gosh, yes.
It's kind of that dichotomy a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. What's a familiar dynamic?
Yes.
Okay. The when Antoinette is at this church in her hometown, that crowd was so awkwardly placed there.
Well, they're all like squished together.
Well, the church looks like it can hold 400, but there are 40 people and they're all squished in together really closely and they're all looking at Antoinette like she's crazy.
I said, "Oh, she's gonna lose."
And then when she leaves, they all just sit there like, are you waiting for church to start? What was
As
what?
in every Tyler Perry production, though, your eye should be straying to the extras because
many of them look crazy.
There's a man in the front row. Is that a burgundy suit? Wow.
Yes, this fair-skinned man in this burgundy suit, like, I mean, good for him. I'm sure that he was very happy to be.
Oh, I'm sure he was,
set.
but where is the production?
And we
designer?
have to be careful because every time we talk about
I know
supporting characters in the Tyler Perry production, they listen to our review and comment. So I want to say that high yellow man looked very nice in his little burgundy suit.
Bordeaux, or was it Bordeaux?
Okay. So when Antoinette gets to this party that Lola is not supposed to be at, when we pull up to this house, those kids, you know what it reminded me of? All those kids in front of this house partying. Remember that movie with Jerry O'Connell, Joe's Apartment?
Oh, I hated
it.
It
reminded me of all those roaches.
The cocky roaches.
Yeah, all those cockroaches. That's what those kids look like partying outside. Have you ever seen that? Look like, what's the movie with who's the actor who's known for smoking weed and he's in Pineapple Express?
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen's in a movie with Zac Efron.
Neighbors.
Yeah. This party looked like something out of Neighbors, like just ridiculous.
Well, also the neighborhood looks nice, and I can't not believe that they're spilled out in the front lawn. The cops would already be there.
It just doesn't make any sense. But when they pull up, of course, there's a scene where Antoinette's like, she tells the DJ to give her the microphone and she's yelling at the kids looking for her daughter.
It's not that well populated.
It's not that big of a party that she just can't turn 25 degrees and see her daughter standing right there.
Right.
Okay. It was very jarring when they get to headquarters and all of a sudden Lola, the daughter, turns into an entirely different person.
Well, that's Tyler Perry's writing. Well, no, she's suddenly feeling sick. Grandma says, let's get you another drink and teach you a lesson. She walks 5 paces away and comes right back, and the daughter's been snatched. She's been body snatched. She's somebody else completely.
She's immediately learned her lesson and feels sorry for what she's done. I don't know that this format works very well. Okay, the only reasonable person who we meet in this episode is the ex-husband.
Yeah, well, he's one of those Tyler Perry stock characters that's completely apologetic for probably doing something terrible to the woman of his life and is trying to get back into the fold.
Well, and it's so obvious because everyone's mean to him. I mean, except his son, but everyone's really mean to him. So it's like, oh, clearly he must have cheated on her. I mean, Shamika kind of alludes to that, but
and questions his sexuality.
Well, in a cheap shot that's like, okay, all right. So out of the characters, who did you think worked the best?
Okay, so I think that I really like Terri J. Vaughn's energy. And I could see, you know what, she reminded me, I could see like somebody like Shea Coulee parodying this in this role. She seems really classy and elegant, and and she's the straight man, if you will, right? So I think because of that, she fares the best. Anybody trying to be funny or deliver comedic dialogue is not good.
I agree. I think I'm already predicting that the only thing that's going to get me through this is Terri J. Vaughn.
Everybody, yeah.
But I will say, I did like Shamika. She's really pretty. I think of all the comedy, she seems like the most natural. Like her dialogue's coming out.
It's kind of like though that Tammy Roman role from
in the Ms.
Ms.
Pat
Pat
show.
show, and she looks like Raja O'Hara. I guess I was in drag queen mode / Sparkle, who Raja O'Hara favors.
Yeah.
She's giving that energy. She's fine. I really disliked Basil, played by an actor named Dion Brooks, aka Mojo Brooks.
Well, it's trying so hard to. We'll see. I mean, yeah, if I weren't doing this, I definitely wouldn't watch episode 2, like just for funsies.
Oh, so I get the sense that this was kind of like a cathartic fantasy about what happened to Kamala Harris.
Oh God.
That's what it feels like. It may be trying to speak to what's happened everywhere, but there's all this talk because Antoinette Dunkerson is very polished, poised, eloquent, and her which is juxtaposed with her mother. Like, how is that possible? And Shamika keeps having to explain to Cleo that her daughter's code switching.
Oh, that's right.
And which I think is something that is worth exploring in television and cinema.
I'm certain there are themes that will be explored that we think are valid and important, but they're going to be overshadowed by the tomfoolery.
Well, I'm already tired by Cleo
and the numbskull nature of it all.
Cleo's lines that keep saying is that's more of that Morse code, and it's like, oh God, okay, that joke doesn't need to be said again. And then I was chuckling because Antoinette, of course, threatens to ground her daughter, and Cleo says, "Oh, grounding, that's more of that Morse code." It's like, well, is grounding only a white thing? Because
I don't know. Well, and just to, I don't think that so what we plan to do is review each episode or recap each episode as we watch them, but I'm not going to publish them individually. I'm going to collect them all and then drop one longer episode, but
one big dump,
like
a Tyler Perry production,
one big healthy S-shaped dump.
Mm-hmm. None of those pebbles.
Yeah, no pebbles. No, none of that dehydrated high protein.
No nuggets.
Poop. But anyway, just to do a little housekeeping, I read that there's some legal drama associated with this series because Tyler Perry, Netflix, and some other entities are being sued by a nonprofit organization that shares, well, it's not sharing the name. They had the name She the People. And it's a nonprofit that is claiming that this series is stealing some intellectual property. It's appropriating the name, but also the fact that a lot of the themes in the show are based on work that this nonprofit has done. And their mission statement is to build powerful women of color to lead America to a new political era. So, and that nonprofit started in 2018.
And they're like, Tyler Perry, you are besmirching our name, our good work.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we'll see where that goes. But I hope that not every one of our recaps are as long as the actual episodes, because, with Beauty and Black, every episode was between 45 minutes to an hour. Mm-hmm. For this series, they're all like about 24 minutes. So let's hope we can get through these very quickly.
Let's see how little Tyler Perry knows about political functions.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No.
Ta-ta. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
We watched episode 2 of Tyler Perry's She the People, now streaming on Netflix.
Yeah.
This episode is titled Every Woman. The excitement of Antoinette's first day on the job quickly turns to frustration as Governor Harper and his staff sideline her.
This episode has been Tyler Perried. Oh, my God.
I think you described it best halfway through this 24-minute episode. You're like, this is so shrill. It really is.
I think it's worth noting that for once Tyler has, well, she's credited as also a creator.
Uh-huh.
I'm unclear if she's also a writer. Not Nia Palmer?
Yes. Oh, and since we're playing catch up, you forgot to mention from episode 1 the artwork in Antoinette's house.
There's a large picture of a pelican.
Like a presidential sized portrait.
Why?
Like
Why?
like it's bigger than life size of a pelican.
Talk
and
about.
I bet we're never going to learn any significance about that pelican.
I mean, for all of the direct talk about code switching, why is her house decorated with a pelican?
So this episode is super simple. It's Antoinette's first day on the job as lieutenant governor. As we all know, she won the election. And for some reason, Antoinette thinks that it's a good idea to bring her family with her.
Her raggedy family.
Her raggedy ass family who don't know how to act.
Specifically her mother and sister. Like, why are they there?
Okay, I am very confused because as someone who had a black father and a Mexican mother, so like minority parents, it was a common thing that it would be like, don't act up around these white folks. Like, be on your best behavior when you're around these white folks. But for some reason, Antoinette, her family, it's like they're the opposite. Like, let us show our asses in front of these white folks. I'm so confused. In this episode, we learn that Antoinette graduated from Harvard Law. Her profession is an attorney. She has an Ivy League graduate education. And Antoinette comes across as appropriate.
For the most part.
For the most part.
She can't control her family.
Well, and you know, who can? But, but you should have the good sense to know not to bring them anywhere.
Exactly.
Except the cookout. I don't know where else you'd bring them.
Exactly. This has the tone of like, I feel like, what's that reality TV series about spouse swapping?
Wife swap?
This feels like some kind of swap happened in this family that was not meant to be in this situation is suddenly thrust into it without any kind of idea of what they're supposed to do. Like it, but I felt like the writing, if somebody that could actually write had penned this could have the air of like a Distinguished Gentleman. Remember that Eddie Murphy movie?
Wow, funny you say that, because I think that because Distinguished Gentleman is from 92. That feels more sort of prescient and like, I don't know. This just feels so dated. If you told me this series was from 2005, I would still think it feels kind of tired.
Around the time of That's My Bush.
It is just all these like stereotypes and tropes, and
I don't know what Tyler Perry thinks he's moving the dial forward for the community, but this
it's embarrassing. But first I want to start off with, of course, Auntie Grandma. There could be a drinking game for the number of times specifically Shamika feels the need to refer to Cleo as Auntie Grandma. But right away, because, you know, Cleo has a ridiculous mouth on her. She says, and this is just more proof that Tyler Perry doesn't know how to write cussing. Mm-hmm. She goes, "What the shit is wrong with you?" What? Mm-hmm. What is that?
I'm also surprised that, you know, he works with distinguished people and they're not allowed to ad lib or work around some of the ripe dialogue.
Okay, we also learned in this episode, because we were curious in the previous episode, Shamika's relationship to Antoinette. Shamika is Antoinette's cousin, which we kind of thought she would be. And then once again, Shamika makes another gay joke, implying that her cousin is a lesbian. Mm-hmm. And then her boyfriend Basil, at one point, tells one of the governor's staff members that Antoinette's family, including him, that they're stronger than the LBWTCQ community. That's not funny.
That's not
and not
funny.
Because I'm a homosexual, but it's just not funny.
Well, it's just basic. And that joke can be sold. Somebody like a Flame Monroe can sell a joke like that.
Sure.
But not Basil in that Lloyd Christmas wearing suit.
Oh gosh. So last episode he was dressed all in blue, and then this episode he's in this orange suit.
Looks like an orange sherbet push-up pop.
Yeah, and Antoinette's like, "You can't drive me to the Capitol like that," which doesn't make any sense to me. You just need a ride to work. Like, exactly. Why can't he just drop you off? But the entire family goes. But before they get in the car, they're arguing about who should drive. because that raggedy ass daughter Lola wants to drive and everyone says no. And then Shamika just offers up like, well, I would drive, but there was that thing in Mexico,
So
which we later learned was like she got in trouble for being part of a donkey show, which for people who don't know is like this myth. I mean, myth. Maybe there are women having sex with donkeys in Mexico, but apparently Shamika got in trouble for that. But how would that affect her driving in the United States?
Exactly. It's so tiresome.
It's so stupid.
It's so tired. It doesn't make any. You can be fun. Like there are things that would work that would be cute or funny. This is not it.
Okay, I have to say again, why would Antoinette bring her raggedy ass family to work knowing they don't know how to act?
I can see Shamika because that's her
assistant. And Shamika, up until this point, had come across like reasonable
and committed.
Yeah. Oh, we needed to get back to that. But they immediately walk into the Capitol building and they just lose all sense of decorum, and including the children, who both of whom seem like they would know how to act, especially what's the little boy's name?
Titus.
Even Titus seems confused. Why would her children not know how to behave? They're talking like, what they're acting like? What's that movie with Keke Palmer where she's a slave, but she doesn't realize that it's 1963 or whatever, or 73?
It's Alice.
They're acting like Alice, like they've been enslaved, like they think it's 1875. But these kids are very modern.
Yeah.
What modern teenagers would behave that way?
I don't know.
And we were already told that Lola goes to a fancy private school with white folks.
And she's embarrassed about her mother in front of the white folk.
Exactly.
And yet she's acting like this? Okay,
right. That doesn't make any sense.
So then they're met by this very
plucky,
like this clearly nervous to talk to black people white woman.
The assistant to the governor, Estelle.
That's what it seems like. And then she's probably the most appealing of the white people we are to meet in this episode. It seems like Tyler. The funniest part of it is like Tyler Perry cast a whole bunch of like
really unfortunate looking. I mean, there's only one good looking one, and it's the direct assistant to the governor, Jade. So Tyler must like him. But the rest look like something out of The Hills Have Eyes. But
what's his name in Jupiter? Governor Jupiter comes down, and then
Governor Harper with that toupee was hanging on for dear life. And then at some point, we've talked about this with every Tyler Perry production, but or what did people love when you called him Tyler One Ply Perry?
Yeah,
because it's one take, it's no revisions. Like a couple of the actors stumble on the dialogue, and I have to believe that was just like, well, keep going.
Yep.
And then Governor Harper, did you notice a couple of times it seemed like he didn't know where to look?
Yeah. And then he has to meet the family, and then Auntie Grandma Mammy Cleo has to tell him like, I didn't vote for you. It's like, Mom,
why would you?
Could especially, as we learn, because I didn't know this before this episode tells us that the governor and lieutenant governor are from opposing parties. So it's like, could you just let me get my... Can I get acclimated?
Can I get my whistle wet before you act a plum fool?
Before you antagonize this white man that is above me? Could I try?
This episode is so shrill, but there is sort of there is something to the story, which is it's established that, like you already mentioned, the governor is a Republican and the lieutenant governor is a Democrat. And the governor basically says, girl, you're just here for show. You're not going to do anything. Just show up on time, shut your mouth, and do what my people tell you to do. And of course, Antoinette's like, no, I'm going to get some things done. There's work for me to do. And then she's given an assistant, and that assistant says, well, we have your staff. And she's like, well, I'm allowed to pick my own staff. Well, we don't think that's the best. And she's like, well, I think it is. And then he convinces her that maybe the people she had in mind aren't the best, because Basil, the driver, has a criminal record, and Shamika participate in the donkey show, and it's just ridiculous. But what I find the most offensive about this episode is the fact that Antoinette is a Harvard Law graduate. This Black woman has graduated from Harvard Law. She is an attorney. And they have her acting like she is so dumb and ditzy and like has no agency. I hate that.
I agree. And so then they're treating again. I thought of that Stan Lathan film with Moms Mabley, Amazing Grace, which is about where Moses Gunn he's kind of like the dummy figure running for office, and then circumstances allow him to commit to running for real and becoming elected, like instead of just being kind of a figurehead. And I have no idea where this is going, but I'm assuming that this is going to light a fire under Antoinette Dunkerson's ass.
I'm hoping so. You know, the episode ends with Basil, who's been told, well, Basil and Shamika have been told that she needs to choose her own staff, but it can't be them. And I was so disappointed. Shamika abandons her cousin.
Yeah, she's like, bye.
Like, wow, okay.
It didn't take much at all.
So now Basil in his orange suit is roaming the Capitol building, and he sits on a bench with a statue and doesn't realize that the statue is not a real person. But he overhears the governor's people talking about how basically they need to do everything they can to stop Antoinette from getting anything done. And that's when Basil pops out and goes, you know, that's when we learn that she's a Harvard Law graduate and that her family has her back, even though 90 seconds earlier they had abandoned her. But okay.
Well, see that, and that's had he? No, I don't think he'd abandoned her yet, because he left the strange tour that was happening to go get liquor out of the car. Remember, because he said he left his drink in the car.
Oh, I thought that was after.
No.
Well, either way,
but
he was riding for her and then immediately abandons her. But
then that is the kind of moment that could have felt cathartic, like him telling these two assholes off. But it just seems so inconsequential.
That was episode 2. Do you have anything else to say?
No.
All right, ta-ta. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
We watched episode 3 of Tyler Perry's She the People, now streaming on Netflix. This episode is called A Lay of the Land. The family moves into the lieutenant governor's mansion, which is haunted by the past in more ways than one. Antoinette visits a county fair. So the episode opens with Antoinette and her family packing up to move into the lieutenant governor's mansion. Then she goes to work, and her chief of staff, Henry, tells her, okay, time to get to work. And Antoinette thinks she's going to do like affect change. She has all these bright ideas immediately. And Henry's like, girl, the governor already has a plan for you. You're going to spend the day visiting the state fair and presiding over a pig hollering contest, the best mule, best head of lettuce, best cherry pie, whatever. And so, of course, she's disappointed. Then we cut to them going to the mansion, which was odd to me. Like, they start the day packing ready to go, but then they all make a detour at her office to then go to the house. Didn't that seem like a weird...
Yep.
It should have... Anyway, so they get to the house, and of course, everyone's acting a fool because the house looks like a plantation. There are Confederate flags everywhere, pictures of old white men.
It felt like we walked into a direct-to-video segment of a Tales from the Hood.
Not that good, though.
Not even that good.
It's not even that good.
But it felt like, oh, this premise, this has something meaty going on.
Because what's the one sketch where they have those dolls?
The Gollywog dolls?
The Gollywog,
oh,
yeah.
That's so
I mean,
creepy. Well, in the first Tales from the Hood, the best one by Rusty Cundieff, remember the last sequences, those little dolls killing that white man.
Yep. Yep. Oh, I think that's what I meant, actually.
Oh, there's another one with like a racist museum.
Yeah.
In a separate movie.
So they get to the mansion and they're acting a fool. And the butler, I thought the best part of the episode was the butler, but he's being creepy. And there's an insinuation that maybe the home is haunted. But the way this description read made it sound like there's definitely a ghost. There's none of that. It's just they're creeped out because they're in this
What was that series just sent you the theme song out? Laura Slept Here
Oh
from the
yeah.
early 80s. I wouldn't be mad if it had that kind of vibe.
So they are in the mansion getting settled in when Antoinette and Shamika have to go to the fair. So the final portion of the episode is them at the fair. And of course, there's a lot of hostility towards Antoinette because these people didn't vote for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then they are doing the pig hollering contest. And it's tradition that the governor, or in this instance, the lieutenant governor, will do the pig holler. And then I guess she's being recorded and that goes viral on social media. The end.
Lots of viral moments for this lieutenant governor, which I believe is a post in most states. They don't know who their lieutenant governor is.
Okay, so then I was like, I think in episode 2, they should have explained to us what the duties of lieutenant governor are in Mississippi.
Tyler Perry, explain? No.
Right. So I guess we have to do it. But because when she meets her appointed chief of staff, Henry, he does tell her, like, no, you're basically going to do what the governor tells you. But according to ChatGPT, the lieutenant governor of Mississippi serves as both a key executive and legislative leader. Their main responsibilities are preside over the state senate.
Mm-hmm. Like the vice president, kind of.
They are, of course, second in command to the governor.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of legislative influence, arguably the most powerful political figure in the state legislature due to control over the Senate's agenda. And then, of course, administrative duties like participating in various boards and commissions. So in summary, the Mississippi lieutenant governor is a powerful figure, especially in shaping legislation and controlling the flow of bills in the Senate.
And that's specific to Mississippi because every state is different.
It's a little different.
Because some states don't even have a lieutenant governor.
But imagine, I mean...
Or they don't have a secretary of state, so the lieutenant governor acts for them. Anyway, whatever.
But imagine if, and of course this is just silly to even ponder this thought, but imagine if you had the writers from Veep doing this thing. Like, you could have a really slick satire involving this Black woman who gets elected as lieutenant governor in the state of Mississippi, where the governor is very conservative and she's more progressive, and all the things that would happen. Mm-hmm. But you'd have to be intelligent and have some knowledge of political science in order to do that. But because it's Tyler Perry, all we're getting is like, oh, why, like all these old dated race-based jokes.
Tropes, yeah. Well, it's almost like we're in the 1950s and this is the first Black woman on TV kind of thing.
This wouldn't be, I mean, again, I said this in the first one, like, if you told me this was 20 years ago, I would still think it's dated.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It feels very regressive.
I only have a few notes. So, of course, in the opening, when they're getting ready to leave, of course, Lola doesn't want to move. She is so annoying to me.
Yes.
She is so annoying. We only get one moment with Cleo, Auntie Grandma. And it was very confusing because Antoinette asks her mother to move in with her to help with the kids.
Because at this point in the episode, Shamika is still out of the picture because at the end of episode 2, she ran away.
But as we've already mentioned in the previous 2 episodes, I don't even know why Antoinette would have her raggedy ass family around her.
I don't know. And her mother?
And her mother is probably the worst.
Yes.
Why would you invite your mother to move into the lieutenant governor's mansion?
Well, she declines because she can't bring her men in there. I'm like, well, you probably could actually.
So thankfully, we only see Cleo in the opening of the episode.
Doesn't she? Jo Marie Payton's kind of giving me Missy Elliott a little bit with the style.
Yeah, from her first album.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so then they're ready to leave for the day, and the Secret Service is there to take Antoinette to work, and they roll up like there's an incident, and all those Secret Service agents are sweating so bad. I felt bad for them.
And Basil pops up in the scene, and he is sweating in that. He looks like he's wearing a suit in this one. I guess that's going to be a theme for every episode. That he looks like a cheap candy cane from the Salvation Army.
Well, let's keep talking about Basil because he is so annoying.
Yes.
He is by far my least favorite character.
Uh-huh.
And he's Antoinette's cousin's boyfriend. The fact that he's so like integrated, it bothers me. They need
Mhm.
to pepper him in very lightly.
Well, he's occupying the David Mann, Mr. Brown space, the awful, ugly clothes, and just saying all kinds of nonsense.
I didn't think about that, but it is totally, yeah,
He's like
yeah,
Mr. Brown Jr.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's grating. Well, you already said it's just so shrill. Like it gives me a headache, and it's only like 24 minutes long.
And then we get a new character who I'm assuming we'll get lots more of. The head of her security, Michael, played by Karen Riley.
Oh my gosh. So then Shamika, so everyone gets transported to the capital except Shamika because, of course, in the previous episode, Antoinette and Shamika had a falling out. But then on the ride there, Basil convinces Antoinette to get on the phone with Shamika and they apologize and Shamika agrees to help Antoinette. So she's already waiting at the Capitol building when they arrive. Shamika is so confusing to me because in some instances she seems like a very put together intelligent woman.
Uh-huh.
But then sometimes she seems like a buffoon. And then her relationship with Basil makes no sense. They don't seem like they should be together.
You mean it's Tyler Perry's dissociative identity disorder characters?
I mean, am I wrong?
No, it makes no sense. The way that they're all acting is ridiculous. And then Michael, who is already that
The head
he's
of security.
the head of security is holding Antoinette's hand from her doorway to the car, which makes no sense. And then when they get in through security, at her job, Shamika is. I was cringing so hard in this episode, but she's trying to set up in front of everybody Antoinette with Michael. The
I
head of
wrote down that
security.
that scene was embarrassing
Yes, it's incredibly embarrassing.
because, again, we have to remember that Antoinette graduated from Harvard Law. She's an attorney.
What she brings up in this episode.
And Shamika, again, sometimes seems like she's very put together. I don't recall being told what her credentials are, but there are moments when she seems very sharp, very bright. But then it's like, first, I mean, can you imagine
No.
can you imagine a person with that, like in that political position, hitting on a staff member the way Shamika, like it just, girl, you're about to get your cousin canceled
I want
and
to
sued. Like,
I want to see like Kamala Harris watching this and see her reaction to
I mean, it's embarrassing.
I mean, you can't this strong, resilient lead character at every turn is demeaned in
Yeah.
this series. Like Antoinette is a victim.
I hate Basil so much. When they get to the lieutenant governor's mansion, he's just acting a fool. And then he sees, so all of the staff are outside waiting for their new lieutenant governor to show up. And of course, Basil is like, oh, this place comes with slaves. And then he's,
Which is so disrespectful. Then there's like, because Alice is the housekeeper is black, but the rest of them seemed white to me.
yeah, there's only
like,
one black person plus the butler.
So
but,
you're just going to demean this lady to her
well,
face?
and then there's one Latino woman, and he goes, I'll make sure you get Cinco de Mayo off.
Yeah,
like, oh my God. And then when the butler is introducing the staff to the family, the chef is a white woman. And of course, Basil's like, we can't have no white chef. I know she don't use no seasoning.
They don't. White people don't put paprika on their deviled eggs.
Egg. It's just, this is so tired. I hate it. I hate it.
Speaking of which, I do put paprika on my deviled eggs when company's over, but I don't find that it adds that much flavor.
Oh, so it's bad.
I mean, paprika, it's just a sprinkle.
I did think the butler was kind of funny.
Yes,
because he's creepy. He seems like they're doing something like from Get Out or something.
Or what? No, what's the head of state with Chris Rock?
Oh, sure.
Remember every scene of him with Lynn Whitfield, and that is so good.
Oh, well, even thinking about head of state,
Mm-hmm.
that feels leaps and bounds
more. Yes, come on.
more, well, like obviously the comedic component, but even just like the satire.
Mm-hmm.
And what year is that movie?
Oh, God, that's like 2002.
Again, this could be 20 years old and still feels dated. Okay, I did think one funny moment is...
Oh, three. Sorry.
When Antoinette gets to the state fair and people are not checking for her, but then she's forced to get up and do the pig hollering. And only one person claps for her. And she goes, oh, thank you, lady. That's the only time I laughed. Poor Antoinette up there sweating her little neck off.
I was like, can somebody get her a handkerchief for her neck? Because it's
And they make her do the pig hollering. Can you do a pig holler?
sweet. I believe that's what they were doing. I don't know. I didn't go to those things. I even avoided the Minnesota State Fair because I thought that was wretched, and that on Snelling Avenue, and I loathe.
Oh, I liked the Minnesota State Fair
well,
because, fried everything on a stick. And then the concerts there were often really good. I saw Clay Aiken there.
Oh.
I saw...
that time it was always right before school started.
I saw James Taylor there.
Because I went to a university right by there. So I quite disliked when the fair was there.
I really liked the fair for the food, the entertainment. And then, I like cars, but I also secretly like RVs. And the state fair would have like RVs, like models to look at, which I always think is really fun to check out. Because they're like houses on wheels.
Yes, they are. Luxury.
Anyway.
Unless they're parked on some side street in LA, and that's no longer luxury.
No. That's all I have for episode 3.
Oh my.
It's getting worse.
Yes.
for sure. So I guess it can only go up from here.
I don't know. I think it could get worse. I do.
Oh. Do you have anything else?
No.
Ta-ta. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
We watched episode 4 of Tyler Perry's She the People, now streaming on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is titled Little White Lies. Antoinette fights for the governor's attention. When Lola's Olympic dreams don't match up to reality, the family divides over whether to tell her.
Olympic dreams? I didn't realize that was the extent of them, but okay.
I think I jinxed us because in episode 3 I said that these episodes can't get any more useless, but I was wrong.
You can't say that with Tyler Perry material because...
Yeah, you're playing Russian roulette because Antoinette fights for the governor's attention.
Except not really.
The episode opens with everyone at the lieutenant governor's mansion, and it's before bed, and Shamika and Basil are smoking weed on the couch, and they convince the butler that it's for medicinal purposes. But
I don't know why they need to do that.
You know what is... recreational marijuana use Mississippi. I'm assuming it's not legal.
Yet they have all them Waffle Houses. I don't know.
Oh, it says recreational cannabis use is legal in Mississippi. It was legalized in 2022.
Okay.
So I don't know why they're acting like it's contraband.
Why did they leave Butler Donald Brown alone? And why is he up monitoring them?
Well, I suppose he'd have to be at their disposal. But, of course, Antoinette comes in like, what are you guys doing? Oh, my God, you're smoking weed. Put that out. Put that out. And then Shamika's crazy ass goes to put out the blunt on the furniture.
Well, on the pillows.
Confederate pillows.
The Confederate flag. I mean, a reckoning would need to happen with that interior decorating, which I can't believe. Because Antoinette's been told that she can't change anything, but there's all this Confederate regalia.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either.
She can't say put this shit in storage until I'm out there.
Like all the first ladies in the White House have decorated things the way that they want to. All that shit.
Tyler Perry's so hacky. I can't believe that he didn't have the family immediately redecorate and make it like African prints and like those crushed velvet portraits with the panther. And I can't believe that he didn't do something that ridiculous.
Right. Out of all the other stupid shit.
Right. Of all the other dumb shit, it's like, oh no, but we have to keep all this stuff because that's a part of the joke. But it's not funny.
I will say that I thought Terri J. Vaughn looked really cute in that scene. Because she has these glasses on and this little pink pajama set.
She's always cute. But yes, I agree.
But it was like, she's cozy and she has the right energy. And this could have been a funny scene, i.e. her raggedy staff smoking weed in the living room. That
But
could be fun.
but I got off track because Antoinette fights with the governor's attention. So she gets to work the next day. And of course, her chief of staff, Henry, comes in and says, okay, well, this is your task today. And they go back and forth about, which, I mean, I guess for this show, this was like a more successful attempt at comedy where Henry's trying to explain to her that you're going to go listen to some black constituents, but he's not quite sure how to like say they're black. He just keeps saying that the governor thinks you'd be best to speak with them. And you made a good point. I find it hard to believe that. I mean, they're in the South, in Mississippi, and these white people act like they've never been around black people.
They wouldn't be afraid to say black. I don't think. I think because they would be condescending in a different way,
Right.
and using sleazy euphemisms. But and then Henry, played by Tony Robinette, is also mimicking Shamika's hair padding.
Well, he's acting black because he's like patting his weave and rolling his neck and sucking his teeth. And then he's confused as to why that's offensive because he's saying, well, Shamika does it.
Shamika does it, but it's like, this homosexual watches Beyonce, at least. He's seen some of those behaviors before somewhere, and just now he's motivated to start doing that.
Well, he's also, that character's not old enough to be this out of touch, I think.
Exactly.
So it just feels like Tyler's trying real hard to make a point. But
in fact, this homosexual would probably like black. I think he would come at them in an out of touch, different from a different angle.
You know what I think would be more fun is if he works for the governor and he's trying to perpetuate the governor's agenda, but he kind of on the sly is trying to help Antoinette.
Right.
I think that would be the funnier gag.
Exactly. But also
is that he's trying to secretly guide her in his sort of like inappropriate way.
Right. And say other equally dumb out of pocket shit.
Right.
But I think well intentioned. And also if they're trying to sideline her, they need to have her hemmed up, as in the governor, for months down the line. Not every day come in and be like, today you're going to be doing this. No.
Well, I'm getting here. I got a little off track because the whole point was initially was to try to explain that this premise says Antoinette fights for the governor's attention. She doesn't really fight. Henry just says, well, you can't go see the governor. Well, what am I supposed to do if I want to talk to him? Well, they said you have to talk to Jade, the governor's chief of staff. So she leaves the office to go tell Jed, and he's like, well, the governor's busy, so no, you can't see him. So that's all the fight was that she goes and asks, and he says no.
She slightly lingered, okay?
Okay, but the A story of this episode is Lola's Olympic dreams. So, which the word Olympic was never used in the episode.
No.
But we know that Lola, Antoinette's annoying-ass daughter,
her schizophrenic daughter.
We need to get back to that. She goes to this fancy private school and she takes gymnastics. And Shamika keeps saying, like, this is such a waste of time. She is horrible at gymnastics. But of course, Antoinette's like, no, she's great. So we see them go to one of her, meets. And I mean, it's
a tournament.
I can't even say it's laughably bad because there was nothing funny about it. But Lola is so bad that it's not fun to watch. And also, like, how can Antoinette not admit that her daughter's terrible? So the entire gag is that on the ride home from the tournament or whatever, the meet, Shamika's trying to hint at Antoinette, like, you need to tell Lola she sucks, and she can't do it. And then Lola's acting like, well, what do you mean? I hated that scene.
It's terrible. But basically there was a point to the scene, which I guess is why the episode is called Little White Lies, and it's all about communication.
Okay, sure, but here's what frustrates me. Ultimately, Lola keeps saying, like, well, I don't understand. And then finally Antoinette, through the because of pressure from Shamika, finally admits, like, girl, you suck at gymnastics. And Lola's like, well, that's great because I didn't want to do it anyway. I didn't enjoy it. So I don't but then she claims that she continued to do it because she thought it made her mom happy. And then now I want to get back to you saying Lola's schizophrenic.
This girl's straight up sabotaged her mother's campaign.
Episodes 1 and 2, she's an effing nightmare trying to sabotage her mother's campaign and then her actual job. Then episode 3, she seems to like, I mean, she's still difficult, but she's calmed down a little bit. And then in this episode, it opens with Lola having a nightmare, and then she's screaming for her mommy, like she's like a 6-year-old girl.
Uh-huh.
That seemed crazy. Then her in the car fully felt like an entirely different human being.
Yep, for sure. Mm-hmm.
She was so mean and nasty and like acting all grown in episode 1. And then in episode 4, she's acting like a little kid who doesn't know that she can say she doesn't like doing something.
So she was basically being terrible on purpose so that her mother would finally confront her.
So that she could stop doing it.
And then Antoinette's like, you know what? This is exactly what's going on in the governor's office.
And then the episode just ends that they've come to this realization.
I will say, out of all of Basil's eyesore suits, this is the least putrid one. It's kind of like a lemon meringue pinstripe. It looks like, remember that scene in Malcolm X when Spike and Denzel were dancing in their suits on the street? That
I mean, it's giving like Janet Jackson's All Right, where they're wearing the yellow zoot suits.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, I mean, it is, but it's, I mean, they're all equally ugly. It's because now he's done all the primary colors plus orange. Like, it's so ugly. But just to go through my few notes, in the opening, when Antoinette catches Shamika and Basil smoking weed in the living room, they're like, well, what are you doing up, Antoinette? And this lady goes, I'm trying to figure out this pipeline thing. What?
I'm working. What are you working on?
You've been told that you're being sidelined, and all we've seen you do is do a pig hollering contest. And now you think you're going to somehow like stop fracking? What are you talking about? Like,
well, that's what Basil said. What do you mean working? Talking to pigs? Like, I also, how much time has passed by this episode?
I don't understand.
They're acting like they've been there for a little bit.
Okay. Something else that I hated, and it's just this horrible writing, but Antoinette is talking to Shamika and Basil and saying, I think the governor just doesn't think I'm smart. And as the audience, I'm like, why would Governor Harper think you're smart? You're running around with these like ragamuffin ass people saying dumb shit, being like, why would anyone think you're smart?
Well, and you went viral for punching a teenager.
It's just like,
right?
Like how oblivious is Antoinette to?
Well, no, you had a really good point while we were watching this episode, because as has been pointed out, the governor and lieutenant governor are from different parties. And if she feels that she's being sidelined, she should be going to the press and mounting pressure on the governor.
Well, again, better writing probably would have had her be more of a confident badass, and like she's out here talking shit about the governor.
I think it's confusing because this is supposed to be a comedy, but we're not laughing, so it seems really long. It's like watching a stand-up comedian just bite it, and when you watch somebody writhing without a viable joke for too long, it's excruciating, and that's kind of what this feels like.
Yeah, watching a stand-up bomb, it just feels like time is moving by so slowly.
So I think the ideas that we're spouting at the television while we're watching this are ideas that you would apply to a drama.
Well, so after the first scene, then they're having breakfast the following morning, and Shamika and Basil are being ridiculous again, and they're basically telling Antoinette like there's a ghost in the house. And then at one point Antoinette reacts like she really believes there was a ghost. That really bothered me. Like, so I just don't understand the point of making this like Harvard law graduate who has been elected lieutenant governor seem like a buffoon.
Exactly.
That really frustrates me.
Yeah, it debilitates her credibility to the audience for sure.
My only other note is I in this episode, it was very noticeable that the lighting in the Capitol building is atrocious.
Oh, see, this is what happens.
This is what happens when you film 16 episodes in 3 days.
When you have like your production design is nil, and you force your actors to chomp through this poorly written material at breakneck speed, and then again, like you don't even do these women service by presenting them this way. I don't know. Like it's just demeaning. I don't know.
What else would you like to say about episode 4?
Nothing. On to the next one.
Ta-ta. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
We watched episode 5 of Tyler Perry's She the People, now streaming on Netflix.
Ugh.
This episode is called Jar of Hearts. After being forced into another disastrous public appearance, Antoinette seeks other ways to make an impact. Shamika stands up to the governor's staff. I don't remember what I thought of the last episode, but after we finished this one, I thought this has to be the worst one so far.
Oh my God. Well, in true Tyler Perry fashion, just repeating the same things over and over again. This is, I don't know for what.
Okay. So the episode starts with, apparently Shamika does she work for Antoinette?
Who's paying her? Where's the paycheck coming from?
I thought that Henry was Antoinette's chief of staff.
Yes.
But Shamika has a desk and she's like sitting in front of the lieutenant governor's office.
And Antoinette Dunkerson hasn't been given the go-ahead to hire her own staff yet.
Right. That is a plot point that she wants her own staff. So why is Shamika doing work at the desk?
So Shamika's working for free, running interference with Henry.
Well, and the opening of the episode is her running interference with Jade. So Jade is the governor's chief of staff. And Jed's accent is so country fried that I thought, let me try to find, he doesn't have much of an online presence. But I found an old interview he did. And so he definitely doesn't have a natural Southern accent, which I thought had to be the case because, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Played by Kevin Toms. Yeah, it's pretty bad to say the least.
But anyway, he goes to Shamika and says, can you tell Lieutenant Governor Dunkerson that the governor wants to meet with her now? And Shamika is just being so out of pocket. Like, no, he made her wait.
Now he's gonna have to wait.
No, he has to wait.
That's not how it works, though.
Ma'am, all the while she's pretending to do paperwork, but the papers are upside down.
It's a graph, and she keeps circling the same thing over and over again. It is so annoying.
Then somehow she says she breaks a nail. Like, doing what? You're just sitting there.
Finger. This is so treacherously stupid.
It is
every moment.
Well, and this isn't even the worst scene of this short ass episode. Then, so what is the name of the head of security for Antoinette? Michael?
The handsome man.
Yeah, I think that's his name. Now I feel like
now I'm blanking on it, but
hold on, let's look. I'm on IMDb.
Yes, it is Michael, played by Karen Riley. Yeah.
So Michael's standing there witnessing Shamika and Jed's interaction, and after Jade walks away frustrated, like, I can't believe you're going to make the governor wait. Michael tells Shamika, you need to tell her, like you playing too much. So Shamika goes into Antoinette's office and is just talking nonsense. Michael has to pop his head in and tell Antoinette. So finally, she says, the governor wants to meet with you. And Antoinette gets up like, okay, no, you need to make him wait like he made you wait. That's right, I'm going to make him wait. Like, what?
For like not a minute later, be like, okay, I'm going to go. Like,
While they're in there, I have to say, the use of the N-word feels very 2000 and late. Like, this just all feels so dated. So,
well, because Shamika calls the Henry a white N-word, and then or an N-word, and Antoinette goes, "Oh, but he's white," and she's like, "Oh, but there's
There are white ones and Latin ones, and
like
like
she's like, you
okay.
right, okay."
So Antoinette goes into the governor's office, and he's there with Jed, acting like he's some sort of Greek king with his boy hosing him down or whatever.
Well, I was thinking like Big Daddy from Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
And he is clearly just like, do we ever understand why he wanted to speak with her in the first place?
No,
Why
just
did the governor want to speak with her?
seemingly just to play around with her. He's drinking brown liquor and holding a cigar that he claims he likes to smoke, but is not lit.
It is not lit. So he called her in. So he had his assistant attempt to get her the first time so he could antagonize her. So Antoinette tries to advocate for herself. Like, I have some concerns. I want to work on this. I want to pick my own staff. And the governor just cuts her off and then
That's it.
has her skedaddle. And that is the scene. So then I thought, okay, of course, we don't think that, Tyler Perry and his production company have the ability to give us something smart like a Veep or a but I so I didn't expect a full satire, but I just don't even I like irony is not that difficult to conjure, and I don't even see the irony in this story because everyone's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't I feel like the most effective way to approach this, even for a Tyler Perry, would have been to make Antoinette more sophisticated and savvy and clearly better suited for the job than this racist ass, sexist ass governor.
He makes Antoinette seem like such a dumb rube,
But
though.
she's a dullard. Her people are ridiculous. It's like, so where's the irony in any of this? Because everyone involved on both sides of the aisle are ridiculous.
I mean, she keeps having to say, like, I was top of my class at Harvard.
Were you?
Was that just a bad crop that year? Because you don't seem like you were able to advocate
Or did
for
she
yourself
mean like
effectively.
she was like her name was at the top of the list? Like, I just in alphabetical order. Like, what is she talking about? The way she behaves, I mean, I don't even believe that she went to Harvard Law. I don't believe that she's a lawyer. We'll get to it, but she seems so poorly informed.
Yeah.
About one thing in particular that is blowing my mind. But anyway, so being forced into another disastrous public appearance. So after her pig hollering contest, now she's at the groundbreaking of an apple orchard, and that was so poorly done. So she shows up to this field where there are like 15 people standing around.
Wow, all white people.
And none of them are checking for her.
Even though we're told she's famous, viral because of that pig hollering, it's like none of her people showed up, like are excited to see her or follow her.
Yeah. Why aren't any people who voted for her showing up to these events?
Exactly.
I mean, we're told at the pig hollering that this county is,
well,
like they clearly didn't vote for her.
Especially because it's finally revealed that something quite sinister is going on in the background. But anyway.
So she's at the, oh my God, I just thought this was so stupid. So she's at this groundbreaking and the people like are not clapping for her. They only like Governor Harper. So she says, okay, well, time for the groundbreaking of this apple orchard. And she talks about like, I think it's like the fruit of the tree. And then the people lose it. Like, what? We thought this was going to be an apple store. We didn't sell our land to have you plant some trees and take away our water.
We had half a lake.
How the hell did this community sell their land to the state and not realize that, like, what? And then shortly after that scene, after they boo her away, she very easily looks up on the internet that Governor Harper had told this community they were building an Apple store there.
Uh-huh.
But the community tells Antoinette, our governor wouldn't do that. Does that make any sense?
Well, no, but look at the country right now. So I can buy some of that
ignorance,
bald face ignorance from these dummies. But the thing is, though, there's no Apple logo. It is a legit tree orchard. There's a tree symbol. There's several people wearing shirts.
There are at least 2 people wearing the Apple Orchard shirt.
Like real apples. Like Apple and Eve girl. Like that.
Why? How did you confuse that with?
And then I still don't understand why Jo Marie Payton as Cleo, the mama, has to be.
That's my next note. Why is Auntie Grandma there.
And Henry says maybe she shouldn't be at these excursions because she's just aggravating
She's
everybody.
just a problem.
Well, and then she's like telling Antoinette, because they hand Antoinette a shovel because it's a symbolic groundbreaking, and they're gonna put you to work. And then the people are taunting Antoinette because she can't
actually like use a shovel.
break ground. It's like, why she can't even shovel, but why would she? Why should she? Why is that an expectation? Oh, it's so stupid.
Okay, then so while Auntie Grandma says something like she wishes the governor would die, and then it hit me, I'm betting money that the governor is going to die. Something's going to happen that she becomes governor.
Well, something needs to happen with that hard wig line because I can't look at that much longer. It is
because when I first read the premise, I'm like, what an odd thing, like this woman becoming lieutenant governor. And it's like, oh, because she's going to eventually become governor. And then I thought, I bet you Tyler Perry's ass thinks that he's making a comedic House of Cards.
Well, the first scene with the governor, he says, like, you're not going to go anywhere unless I die. He says something to that.
Right. But I like it didn't hit me till episode 5. You know what else didn't hit till episode 5? Antoinette's dumbass saying, I really think they are setting me up to fail. Really, girl? You should have known that from episode 2. The first day you were in the office and they treated you like you were useless.
And again, I think we were both screaming at this 24-minute episode, like, why isn't she going to the media?
Okay, 2 things we are wondering. A, yes, why doesn't she just go to the media and say, like, this Republican governor is stopping me from getting any work done. I'm really concerned about these issues. Mm-hmm. Number 2, what did Antoinette think her job would be? Did she not do any research? Did she not ever think like, if I do get elected lieutenant governor, I'm going to be sitting with
this man from a different party who's going to have the authority to tell me what to do sometimes.
Right. And you're a Harvard law graduate. You didn't have a plan as to how to approach this. You didn't have a plan as to how to like rein this shit in. I just don't understand.
I can't believe this is going to be 16 episodes. Anyway, so her first day in office, she tells Henry, she says, like, I really have thoughts about the pipeline. Remember, she says and that's the first time we hear about it, and they sidestep that.
Okay, so we know that Antoinette has come into this position concerned about this pipeline. Mm-hmm. So then her next appearance, which again, she keeps saying, like you said, repetitive. She's like, how come every time the governor's free, I'm scheduled to do something? But so her next appearance is she's supposed to meet with these Black church leaders to help smooth over this pipeline situation. And that scene was embarrassing.
Uh-huh.
That was embarrassing. It was so poorly written. They have these poor actors. One in particular, like every time someone says God, he has this like church reaction. It just feels so tired. It feels so 25 years ago.
Like he must like a Cat Williams caricature.
So Antoinette doesn't know anything about why she's meeting these church leaders.
Or what their names are or their positions.
She doesn't know their names, anything. And then it's like, Shamika couldn't brief you? Like, what is her job? Why is she around if she can't help you with anything?
Meanwhile, Shamika always after the fact is saying like, oh, I just Googled this and this is what's happening. It's like, girl,
bitch, you should have done that before and then brief her. But anyway, this is when we learn that they're concerned about which communities the pipeline is going through.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not until after the event when they're back at the lieutenant governor's mansion and Antoinette has put on her army fatigue pajamas that she gets on an iPad, presumably a government iPad that Shamika had in her possession, where Shamika had uploaded a sex video of her and Basil.
Ooh.
It is on that iPad that Antoinette realizes, oh, the pipeline is going through like the poorest communities in 3 different states. How did you not know that? That was your big issue coming into office.
But it's like, wait. Net, as they're calling her. So what ideas did you have about the pipeline that you came in with?
Exactly. What were your concerns about the pipeline? I would think the number one concern is which community is this pipeline affecting? And that's your big aha moment is, oh my gosh. So then, yeah, what was your issue then with the pipeline if that wasn't it? Oh, I hate it. I hate this writing.
The writing's terrible. And plus, Shamika keeps like... There's a scene earlier where she's trying to amp up Antoinette, and they reminisce about her Harvard days where they used to call her Forrest Whitaker.
Because they go, you be doing all that shit with them inverted ass nipples.
What?
What? They used to call you Forrest Titaker. Who wrote that? I hate that they make Shamika so ridiculous. She's like a clown.
She's definitely a clown. Well,
Why?
actually they all are, and then Antoinette is dumb.
You know, I had a lot of kindness. Like, you know, I have a lot of. I just really liked Terri J. Vaughn from the Steve Harvey Show,
Mm-hmm.
and then the first few episodes, there was still some. I think what's the word I'm trying to use? Like I was giving her some
grace, the benefit
some
of the doubt.
grace.
Well,
yeah,
you know, the thing is, she does have comedic timing.
She does, but then it's like all the faces she makes, especially in this episode of her seeming annoyed and confused. It's like that's how I feel watching this show.
Well, but see, to me, that seems she is an actor that is trying to make the best of a terrible situation in these scenes.
She is.
I think she's trying to do something, but I don't think anything that she does, because the character is so debilitating. There's really Tyler Perry has painted her into a corner that she can't get out of.
Yeah, and then the final gag of the episode is that back at the lieutenant governor's mansion, Antoinette's in her pajamas ready to end the night, and her driver Michael comes in and he says, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I think you're doing a great job," and also, which is like kind of, I mean, that's kind of awkward. Like, so you came in
to tell me that.
Tell me that.
Can't you just tell me that in the morning before?
And then he goes, "Oh, and then you forgot this jam," because when they were at the apple orchard, they were given some jars of jam, like apple jam, and we saw Antoinette grab 2 jars.
Yes.
But then he's like, "Oh, this one was for you." And Shamika's like, "Oh, he likes you. He brought you this jam." And then they read the note. Like there's a, what do you call it? An elastic tag on the jam.
It's a tiny tag, okay?
There's
a paragraph of words that Shamika reads.
And Shamika reads off this long, basically like love note, which I'm assuming was not intended for Antoinette. But of course, Shamika's saying, "Girl, Michael wrote," because it's not addressed to anyone, it's not signed. But of course, Shamika's thinking, "Oh, it's from Michael to you. He loves you." And Antoinette's like, "Oh, that would be inappropriate." "Oh, that's inappropriate. But you having your ghetto ass mama come to every event, and your friend, like, who's not employed by the state government, you have her."
And Basil is lurking around.
And then Basil lurking around. Like, but that's not inappropriate. Ugh.
But the number of words that are supposedly on this note
it's
on
just,
the jam is so dumb.
It could be funny.
It
would have been funny if the words were like actually comedic and there were more of them.
Yes.
Like a clown car, like when you have 80 clowns come out of a tiny little car.
Like that episode of Family Matters where they all get out of that little car. Do you remember that?
Right. That's how you write a scene like that. Not this sort of like awkwardly long note that is clearly not from Mike. Like there's no way Michael wrote that.
No.
So I hate it. Is there anything else you want to say about this episode?
One of those pastors or bishops or that the religious meeting, one of them looks like he could be John Legend's daddy.
And he appeared to have a big old booger in his nose.
It looked like, well, it might have been makeup.
Maybe.
But it was distracting.
Wow. Something captured your attention in that horrible scene. Anyway, I think we're all done with this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Ta-ta. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
We watched episode 6 of Tyler Perry's She the People, now streaming on Netflix. This episode is called Getting Adjusted. Episode 6 is called Getting Adjusted.
Tyler Perry's also getting adjusted.
Antoinette faces crises on multiple fronts as she tries to convince the governor to move the pipeline and waivers on how to handle Michael's note. Okay, so the episode opens. Y'all know from last episode, Antoinette thinks Michael wrote her a love note, even though that makes no sense.
On a jar of apple jam. The details just make it somehow more, unbelievably stupid.
And despite being his boss and having access to an HR department, chooses to just fire him.
Without explaining.
And then her assistant who's not an actual government employee explains that she fired you because she was attracted to you, which immediately I thought the first thing I would do is go
Ooh.
file a grievance and get an attorney to file a lawsuit.
Oh,
But
would love to hear that come off out of somebody's mouth, because the rest of my life would be fine.
and
You know?
again, we're dealing with Lieutenant Governor, also Harvard law graduate. But the episode opens with Antoinette at the Lieutenant Governor's mansion being awkward because she thinks her driver is in love with her. So she chooses to wear an outfit that will not show her body so he won't find her attractive. So she's wearing this pinstripe suit, and it's supposed to be super hot outside, like 100 degrees. And then she puts a trench coat on over it. So she looks insane. Everyone keeps saying, "Why are you wearing that? It's hot."
And she's like, "No, baby, it's cold outside."
So she gets to work, and immediately she sees that the governor is talking to one of the church leaders from the last episode, and they're celebrating because the reverend is saying, "Oh, thanks to Lieutenant Governor Dunkerson, everyone's on board." And she's like, "What are you talking about? That's not true. I don't know what's happening. Like, I didn't get everyone to get on board." And but the reverend says, "No, everyone's agreed to sell." That character is terrible.
Yes.
The reverend who likes to say, "Yes, God." It feels, again, all of this just feels so 25 years ago.
Well, it feels like a William Cat, or sorry,
Cat Williams.
Cat Williams, William Cat, impression, like in some dumb movie.
So then you have the governor standing there looking crazy with that horrible wig on. And then the first time the reverend gets kind of loud and excited, it startles the governor. So he pees on himself a little. So then we see his assistant Jeb. Is it Jeb or Jed? Jed. We see Jed dab, because the governor likes Jed to dab his sweat off his face. We see Jed dab the governor's crotch because he dribbled a little. This comedy is like
Naked Gun. This is the.
It's not that good, but no.
Naked Gun is there's so many gags and not all of them.
But these aren't even gags. This is just like childish, basic, tired humor.
Yes, it's
that's like watered down.
It's tired. Yes.
Okay. So then we have the governor. So the description I read about.
That's the cat.
Her trying to convince the governor that the pipeline's a bad idea. He's being so disrespectful towards her. He's speaking to her in a demeaning, sexist way. His assistant, his chief of staff, is being racist. I can't believe.
I mean, he's purposefully mispronouncing Shamika's name, calling her
everything except her
Shamala,
name.
Kamala, Ramala, Ding Dong. Yeah.
I don't understand. I just feel like I'm going to keep complaining about the same thing.
And Antoinette is not having any response to this.
No, and again, this is supposed to be a Harvard law graduate.
Yes. Like, she's not checking them for the bullshit they're saying. I mean, she does correct him sometimes about Shamika's name, but it's like, come on. It's so blatant.
I just don't understand at this point why she's not speaking to the media. She's an elected official. I mean, can we not get some can the governor fire the lieutenant governor? I would think not.
I think unless
so why doesn't she go to the media and let them know, hey, there's this pipeline, I don't agree with it, the governor's proceeding, I'm being treated this way, I'm being silenced. Nothing, just running around looking frustrated. And then once this comedy is so just tired because we're in episode 6 and we're still referencing that pig hollering video.
Yeah.
You can't write new jokes?
Well, not much else has happened. So what would they reference?
Well, that too. Then it's this episode we see that the governor likes to pull on his ear. Like, what is it? Samantha from Bewitched?
Like as a signal for his assistant. To get people the hell out of there. Yeah.
Like, ugh. Okay. As Shamika and Antoinette are leaving the governor's office, Antoinette is clearly riled up. And
Mhm.
Shamika's telling her, like, don't say anything, just smile. Don't say anything till you get back to your office in private. How does that make sense when Shamika has been showing her ass all 6 episodes? She's been loud and ignorant in front of important key people
Well, not only
the
that, there's
entire 6 episodes, but then when Antoinette actually has a reason to be elevated, she doesn't want her to do it.
but there's no one to witness it because there's no one in the hallway.
And then on top of all of that, there is no one in front of her to witness her not smiling.
The journey to her office is a safe one.
I think of all the characters, Shamika makes the least sense.
Yes.
As far as like the characterization, like it's all over the place.
I like Lola as well, the daughter. Yeah, there's no consistency.
Well, Lola had an exorcism because she just all of a sudden turned to a different person.
Or lobotomy.
Okay, so Antoinette fires Michael because she's uncomfortable, has not had the good sense to question him about the note. He's not acting any different. He's been nothing but professional.
Well, if anything, she's the one that is acting questionably
Right.
towards him in this scene because she gets like lost in a trance looking at his face
Because
like,
she's clearly attracted to him.
well, she's like, don't you want to try to convince me to make you stay? Like, girl,
what's wrong with you? So she fires him.
Mm-hmm.
And then as he's leaving, he asks Shamika, like, what is really going on? And Shamika basically says, like, well, she fired you because she's attracted to you. Doesn't mention the note. No one mentions the note.
Right.
Okay. So while they're driving,
don't you think a person like Shamika would have been like, dude, you wrote that note to her?
Exactly. That's why I'm saying her character doesn't make any sense. At some moments, she's so bold and assertive, and in other moments, it's like, are you dumb?
The only way that it makes sense for her not to bring up the note on the jam these sentences I'm saying, is that she planted it herself so that Basil could get the job as the driver. Like,
right. Initially, I thought that too. Like, well, maybe she's trying to set up Michael so her boyfriend can get his job. But that's not the case because a new driver is assigned, picks her up to take her to her next location. And while they're in the car, Antoinette gets a call from her chief of staff, Henry, who asks, hey, that jam that you had, do you still have it? There was a note on there that wasn't for you. And they're like, what? Yeah, it was from Senator Sims to his wife.
But this note is like a postcard. Anybody can read it.
And then okay, so this doesn't make any sense to me. The way they're talking, the way Henry's talking about it is like, I was for sure thinking that he was going to say that a Republican senator wrote that note to like some guy.
Exactly.
Some young man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I mean, just every opportunity to do something more like adult and scathing, like nothing. We're just going to do this buffoonery.
Also, Michael, the driver, the chauffeur, he said this gem was selected for you. I saved it for you. He didn't double check. How is that earmarked for her?
But the scene plays out like, it's scandalous. Why would it be scandalous that a husband wrote a love note to his wife? Why is Henry acting like if anyone found out? So then I'm like, oh, are they implying that wife is not really wife? But then that's not how the scene plays. And then for some reason, Shamika's saying, yeah, we read it and I made a bunch of copies of it.
Why?
Again, what is the joke? Because as far as we know, there was no, I mean, he wasn't insinuating that it's not from the senator to his wife. So why would Shamika think that she can use it as blackmail?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And then the episode ends with Auntie Grandma at home with the 2 children at the lieutenant governor's mansion. And she's showing the kids what they're saying is like a documentary about HBCUs, but really it's a documentary on Freaknik. And if people don't remember it, that was a popular sort of like, I believe it was like a spring break type thing.
Yeah, that happened every year for...
Yeah, and it was like very sexually charged.
A couple decades,
I mean, you know, when you think about how people act now going out, it's like, well, Freaknik doesn't seem that crazy. Right. But of course, the build up to what we finally see is so obvious and boring because it's obvious that we're going to see Antoinette in the video. And sure enough, we see Antoinette twerking in the video and everyone's shocked. but she just is like a 90s kind of girl. Like, I don't understand.
She's not doing anything untoward.
She's not doing anything. She's dressed like exactly how she should be dressed, and she's just dancing. So it just, I don't know. I don't know. This episode was useless to me.
It was useless. There have been a couple previous episodes that are more offensively stupid, but it's still not. I don't.
Do you have any predictions?
I'm still waiting for that governor to die.
Yep, waiting for the governor to die.
I'm tired of looking at that wig. I don't know. I'm anxious for it to be over. It feels like it's taking forever to get through, but there's in a couple months there's another 8 more episodes of it. So
anything else?
No.
Ta-ta. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
We watched episode 7 of Tyler Perry's She the People, now streaming on Netflix. This episode is called Taking Charge. A trio of pipeline activists hold Antoinette's feet to the fire, while a heart-to-heart with Michael leaves her hot and bothered.
Oh my God, that actually sounds like there's substance in something, and there's not in anything.
I will say this episode, a little more is happening.
More's happening.
We're also in episode 7, so I feel like it's about damn time. But I learned a couple of interesting things. Terri J. Vaughn was on the Sherri Shepherd show promoting She the People. And first of all, Sherri Shepherd was saying that this series is brilliant and it reminds her of The Office.
Sherri, we can't just lie to people's faces all the time, okay?
She's saying the humor is so smart.
Oh, no.
Oh, now I don't trust Sherri Shepherd anymore. Well, not that I do.
Well, she has to. She just worked with Tyler. She has to say all the bullshit.
For sure. But I'll save the more gaggy thing for my second fun fact. But my first fun fact is that Terri J. Vaughn is the creator of the show, and she was shopping it around, and that she said she was inspired by London Breed, who is the first Black female mayor of San Francisco.
Okay.
So she said she was inspired by that to write this show. And then the former mayor of Atlanta.
Wait, hold up. Terri J. Vaughn wrote the show.
No, she didn't wrote it. She's the creator.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. But then
okay, so she wasn't
she basically like pitched it.
Sure.
And then but when she came up with the concept after being inspired by this Black female mayor of San Francisco, then she went to Keisha Lance Bottoms, who was the Black female mayor of Atlanta, and sort of said what she wanted. And that Ms. Bottoms said that she was very impressed. So Terri J. Vaughn asked her if she would like sort of like be a consultant and co-produce. So she agreed. So we have a former mayor consulting on this show, which is even more disappointing.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking like, so you have these like accomplished Black women as inspiration and consultants. And then I was thinking of the representative from Texas, Jasmine Crockett.
Love Jasmine Crockett.
Who we were listening to her on a podcast, and she told a story about recently having to give a speech in Mississippi, which is where She the People is set, and how she was sort of concerned for her safety, but the good people, there were some good people in Mississippi, some law enforcement agents who helped her make sure that she was safe. But I just thought like, man, you have so much like inspiration to pull from to make this so much more passionate. And
okay, if Antoinette Dunkerson was out here being Jasmine Crockett, this would be such a better show.
Right? If she had that fire and that passion and that intellect. But instead, Antoinette comes across as a fool.
Well, also, you know, they're watching episode 7 where there's a scene, which I'm sure we'll get into, with Michael, her now ex-driver. She was giving me Dustin Hoffman and Tootsie. Like, why are you stumbling over yourself like this?
Well, so my second fun fact is about Michael.
Do
you know who Michael is in real life?
Besides the actor's name, Karen Riley, no.
He's Terri J. Vaughn's husband.
Oh, shit.
They've been married for 17 years.
Oh, well, that is it. Same amount of time as us.
Yeah. So I mean, that's nice.
That is nice.
Okay. Oh God, now the cat wants to join in.
The cat's upset that we wasted her evening on this.
That she has to listen to us watch this show. Okay, so the episode opens with that white lady we met in episode 2 giving a tour to some school children of the state capitol building.
I mean, the Mississippi's already kind of low on the hierarchy of education, aren't they?
Where does Mississippi rank in education?
I thought it was pretty low.
Hold on. When I typed in where does Mississippi, the first Google search was rank in education. It says it ranks 16th in education.
Oh shit!
That's
okay,
much higher than I thought.
That's a negative stereotype that's been floating around in my brain. I do apologize,
from
Mississippi.
This source that while it's on the
what's Mississippi before I.
This is a survey that is posted on the Mississippi Department of Education website, so I guess it is reputable.
I don't know, with what's currently going on, I feel like we're all going to be about in the same place for education.
But now I want to know. Oh, and then as far they're number 16 in education. For economic well-being, they're ranked 47th.
Oh, well, that's not good.
For overall child well-being, they're ranked 48.
Ooh, okay. Well, these raggedy-ass children, that is probably...
Ooh, in health, they're ranked 50th.
Okay, see, I knew there was something wrong with Mississippi. I knew it.
Damn.
But isn't that... Okay, the disparity between those numbers is also strange. So they're kind of mid for education, and yet everything's still really shitty.
I'm a little confused.
Is it Waffle House? Is that what's doing it?
Well, access to Waffle House educate the people, or are you talking about health?
Health.
Oh wow. Okay. Anyway, the episode opens with that raggedy white lady giving a tour of the state capitol to all of these black children who appear to be maybe like 8 or 9 years old, and those poor kids. That acting was terrible. But the white lady is like, "Oh, look who's here," and it's Antoinette and Shamika. But she's like, "Who do you think this is?" And the kids are like, they don't know. They're saying, "Oh, she the cleaning lady. Is she here like on trial?" One of them says, "Oh, that's Mary J. Blige."
No, she says that's that old lady my mama likes, Mary J. Blige. Like, come on,
the cleaning lady and Mary J. Blige.
Like, no. It
doesn't make any sense.
Tyler Perry often has MJB jokes.
But yeah, those kids are terrible. But
and of course she starred in
one of them.
She's in I Can Do Battle by Myself off the top of my head.
And she has a moment where she sings. I recall that.
Yes, that's true.
So does
Taraji in the kitchen.
Of course, Antoinette's like, "Okay, that's enough. That's enough. I'm your lieutenant governor." And they're like, you don't do shit, blah, blah, blah. Like these badass kids. And then the white lady, the tour guide, says, "Okay, kids, I'm now going to show you where your ancestors picked cotton."
Oh, God. I mean, it's just not smart enough to hold that kind of satire. Also, what did I say? I would love to see Maxine Waters encounter children like this.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, because what you want in this scene is the lieutenant governor to get them together.
Yes.
And of course, Antoinette's like,
yes. It's just like, what? Why does they have to write her like that?
And then when the kids leave, she's sort of telling Shamika, like, "Why didn't you help me get out of this?" And Shamika's like, "I don't know." And then Shamika goes, "I didn't know we were going to be attacked by all of Nick Cannon's kids," which I thought was kind of a funny line.
Decent line.
Okay, then we transition to...
Wait, what did she say? The hints were too subtle, and Antoinette does say, "Well, next time I'll say, bring your ass."
So Antoinette gets to her office, and immediately she's kidnapped by the governor.
Not before there's an awkward interaction with Michael on the staircase.
Oh, gosh. That was kind of painful.
Where these whole ass adults can't use the word come as in come by my office without...
or then referencing like huge penises. It was just all very remedial and like just very lowbrow comedy to me. But the governor like literally grabs Antoinette, which is like a first so far, like because he's always trying to avoid her.
So something's up.
And he drags her into a room with 3 women, and they turn out to be 3 senators. Actually,
yes.
How many senators are in Mississippi? We're doing on the fly research.
Yes. Pause for this information.
Mississippi. Well, no, every state only has 2 senators. So, so I already know that. But we're told that these 3 women are senators, but it's like, where are they from? Like,
that is not given. That information.
I'm
is not
assuming
given
they're
us.
from the states affected by the pipeline. So anyway, these 3.
Which is
Now I feel stupid. I do know that there are 100 senators and every state has 2. I don't know
That's
why I had
true.
to look that up. But these 3 women are sitting there and they are mad. Well, one is extra rude and mad and crazy, but they want to talk to the governor. And the governor is, of course, trying to get out of it. So that's why he's grabbed Antoinette. And he keeps saying, like, well, you can tell her anything and it'll get back to me, but I have to go. So he leaves her there. And one senator in particular, so there are 2 black women and a white lady. The one black lady is being so outrageously rude to Antoinette.
Yes, she is.
Basically, like, you can't do shit. I don't know why we're wasting our time.
She snaps her fingers in Antoinette's face. And I'm like, I would have put a stop to that right there.
Again, an opportunity to really do something fun and educate the people. But Antoinette says, well, let's go to my office. It's more comfortable. And then there's a gag about Antoinette not being able to get out of the seat she was sitting in, what was the point of that?
I don't know.
They go to her office.
And berate her for not using her decorating budget.
Berate her. And then Shamika, of course, has to show her ass by saying she's not going to grab anyone coffee.
Yes.
And then we find out that they're there because they're upset about the pipeline and what is Antoinette going to do? She can't do anything.
She's powerless, blah, 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 blah. And then to go on to say, like, you're the first black woman that's had this position. It's like, well, could you support me then?
Well, okay, here's my problem. The rude one especially is like, you can't do shit, you can't do shit, you can't do shit. And then says, you don't even know what your power is. You don't even know what you control. Okay, do you know? And why don't you try to help then? Because then we find out that this mission is critical because groundbreaking for the pipeline is happening tomorrow.
But also, so this is when the 3 senators are accosting the governor. Where have you been?
The day before. And since you 3 bitches know so much, why don't you come up with a plan to help stop this? Like, because we'll get to a little bit later, but it does turn out that the lieutenant governor does have a lot of power, which we talked about in, I think, episode 2, like that it does appear that the lieutenant governor has a lot of power.
Also, I don't see how Antoinette could not know that tomorrow is the day. But whatever.
Well, right. She basically ran on this platform of being concerned about the pipeline and knows no details. How did it escape her that it's happening tomorrow when all these senators know? Wouldn't the lieutenant governor of the state that it's happening in have access to that info?
Well, in her workaround for the governor is like moving the pipeline 2 miles south through blah blah blah, and it wouldn't cost any extra money. It's like
so she did all that research and because she says she contacted the contractors and they confirmed that there'd be no price difference.
Have you ever?
So you did all that research, but you don't know dates and
time. Have you ever made a change with a contractor who also is a government contract that would say there?
Well, of course,
it's not going to cost any extra.
That's all ridiculous. But we make a hard transition because you already mentioned that there was an awkward interaction with Antoinette and Michael. She was asking him to come to her office. So then we make a hard transition to Michael coming to her office. And that's where she finally articulates why she dismissed him.
Except she doesn't really articulate
it. But then she doesn't articulate it, but she does say it was regarding the note. And then what does Michael's crazy ass do? Admit to flirting to her. And then he takes it a step further by saying, well, I am still a man and still human. So clearly this man hasn't had like sexual harassment training. Like, what? Why would you?
Professional.
These people are so unprofessional. Speaking of unprofessional, the lighting in this series is a hate crime.
Speaking of unprofessional, Tyler Perry. My God.
Then we see Antoinette at her desk after she's been confronted with Michael admitting he was flirting with her. So now she's all hot and bothered. And then we see her acting flustered.
And then Shamika comes in before she's told to come back in and says that it's Antoinette's time of the month.
Oh, God, I hate it. Well, speaking of Shamika and Antoinette at her desk, what do we find Antoinette doing? fiddling around with that same graph,
It's the same piece of paper.
the same piece of paper that Shamika was playing with 2 episodes ago.
Shamika's already circled up that paper.
Circling this graph.
There's
what in the world
There's nothing else to circle
could
on
she
this
be?
paper.
Okay, the highlight of this episode is at the end of the work day, I guess. Antoinette goes back home and we see that she has 3 people waiting for her, one of whom is TC Carson.
Yes.
So that was definitely a highlight. And I have to say, TC Carson in the episode is playing a gay man.
Yes.
So big ups for that.
And also the energy changes.
Well, because he actually, and it's so not fair because Terri J. Vaughn also shined in a similar way to TC Carson Living Single on her show. So it's just such a shame, but I think he was such a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
I also have to mention that Eric Alexander and Kim Coles have this new podcast called Reliving Single, where they basically are going through the episodes like one by one and talking about them and bringing on special guests. And I have to say, it is so good for anyone who liked the TV show Living Single. You have to listen or watch Reliving Single, because I mean, the most recent episode I watched was with the costume designer, and that woman is it's so fun to listen to someone who's so good at their job talk about it and how important costume design is to a show.
It's a 90s kind of world. I'm glad I got
I think that
girl.
And then they talk a lot about like comedy, structuring comedy in a sitcom. And actually, this is a good topic to talk about because I think Tyler Perry should watch Reliving Single and maybe he can get some tips on how to make an effective comedy.
But
sitcom.
Tyler Perry's watched black films. It hasn't sunk in yet. I don't know why that would sink in. But a side note, Erica Alexander, anytime you have the opportunity to listen to her, is just
she's so funny. And, she's a lot more adult than I think people might. Like, her vibe is she's very smart and she talks very candidly about sex and her body. And it's actually quite lovely to listen to. But speaking of not understanding comedy, we get, first of all, these 3 people show up. TC Carson. One of the actors is Trina from Why Did I Get Married?
Denise Boutte.
Yeah.
The other lady's name is, I keep wanting to say Tequila, but I bet that's not how you pronounce it. It must be Tequila Whitfield with 2 L's.
But these 3 people are sitting on the couch and the entire time they're all interacting. It's like, who are these people?
Exactly.
And we never really learn except till the end when Antoinette has invited them over because she wants them to be a part of her staff. So the thing that really killed me about this episode 7, we're 7 episodes in, and we finally hear Antoinette, the Harvard law graduate, say, I was researching and I have a lot more power than they are actually giving me. I was so annoyed. But anyway, part of it is that she goes, I'm allowed to hire my own staff.
But that's what you've been wanting to do. You didn't check day one when they tried to railroad you and say like, nah, let me find out what I can and can't do for sure. That's what, it's like, what was that movie? Dave with Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver, where the double takes in for the president who's had a heart attack and, if I recall, dies. And the cabinet is trying to push him for their own personal agendas, but he's ignorant and doesn't know. That's what this woman seems like. She's been snatched off the street to be the lieutenant governor, has no idea.
But a Harvard law graduate who ran for this position and already held an elected position prior. And she seems like someone plucked like,
what was it? Trading places? Like
I mean, even worse, it's like, they grabbed her from the hair shop and told her you're lieutenant governor.
Right.
That's how this plays. But so a few things, but getting back to the comedy, first, it's real heavy on the gay jokes, which I just thought felt so tired. And it's mainly Basil uncomfortable with TC Carson. And then he's trying to reference the LGBT community and he calls it the LBWW9 community. He makes a couple of other gay jokes that are just real tired. Then they're all having dinner. And of course, Basil has to explain, the chef is white. So then we get a series of jokes about like, the food can't be good if it's a white lady cooking it, talking about how she tried to put raisins in the potato salad. She doesn't use salt. She tried to make tuna casserole. Is it like 1998? Like what?
Well, also they are in Mississippi. It's casserole jokes. That's very Midwest.
Also, I would think that white people in Mississippi can, they burn in the kitchen. I would think, like
you would think, but sure, let's bring those jokes on.
They're not 50th in health because they're not making delicious food out there.
And then they jump on Denise Boutte, who said she did grow up eating tuna casserole.
But then they're like, oh, she was adopted by white people. These jokes are so tired.
Yes.
But the highlight, I guess, beyond TC Carson, is that Antoinette realizes that I do have power, and the first thing I want to do is block the groundbreaking to buy us some time to figure out what to do with this pipeline. But then I thought that the plan she concocts sounded so cockamamie to me. She's like, oh, well, the ceremony is happening at that one reverend's church who was real corny. And his church is the church that Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech at. Mm-hmm. So it's a historic site. Mm-hmm. And so she's going to file a motion because you can't give speeches at a historic site. I don't understand what that means.
I don't understand how those dots are connected, but maybe they're on that graph we haven't gotten a close-up of.
Oh,
because I don't know.
That's a good one. But anyway, one of Antoinette's friends, Trina from Why Did I Get Married, she's an attorney. So she's like, well, I could file the motion. Uh-huh. And then the other lady, I'm not quite sure what she was tasked to do. And then TC Carson is tasked to be the driver.
Pamela Tequila Whitfield. Also, this GD living room with all of the Confederate flag regalia everywhere that they can't change because it's historical is such bullshit. Because
that doesn't make any sense, because if these are historical artifacts, they wouldn't be available for wear and tear.
Exactly.
Right?
And then Basil has straight up put a white sheet over some statue in there. It's like, throw the pillows into a closet.
There is no way that she wouldn't be allowed to say, remove these.
Exactly.
These Confederate pillows are historical items?
No.
That we can sit on and spill coffee on? That's crazy.
No, I have to. Not when in the same episode where like you can decorate your own office.
As hacky as Tyler Perry is, I'm surprised that he didn't have, well, I think I've already said this. I'm surprised that they didn't redo the Lieutenant Governor's mansion to seem kind of urban or hood or whatever Tyler Perry would call it. That's just so stupid. But anyway, we have one more episode left before we finish part 1. So let's get to it. Anything else?
No.
Ta-ta. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
We watched episode 8 of Tyler Perry's She the People, now streaming on Netflix. This is the final episode of part 1 of season 1. It's called Standing on Business. With her friends uniting behind her, Antoinette puts it all on the line at a contentious press conference with the governor. Man, so it took us 8 episodes to get to something
for her to do the logical thing that we've been wondering why she hasn't.
This should have been episode 2.
Yes.
Episode 1 should have been her surprisingly winning the election, because
she should have anticipated how this white Republican curmudgeon was going to treat her.
Exactly.
And be prepared for, the worst possible scenario.
Be prepared.
Yes, Scar.
Yeah. I mean, it's frustrating because this was the only time in 8 episodes that I felt like, yeah, I'm kind of getting what I want.
Well, I know it hobbles its strong black female lead Netflix categorization, and then the supporting characters, a lot of them seem like buffoons.
I can't stand Basil. I think he's ruinous.
Shamika's worn thin. I find
Auntie Grandma,
poor Jo Marie Payton. I think I said this in the first episode take on that I think she's so much better than this.
Oh yeah.
And it makes me uncomfortable because he's kind of playing with like what I would say contemporary mammy tropes. And then in this episode, that is something that pushes her character's buttons.
Well, let's go through the episode. So it opens with, because we know in the last episode, the night ended with Antoinette asking her 3 friends to join her team, her cabinet.
Yeah.
And the main person, Kelly, said, well, let me think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the beginning of this episode, later that night, Antoinette calls Kelly's phone and Kelly picks up and she's like, oh, I didn't think it's so late. Why'd you pick up? Like,
why are you calling me?
Why are you calling
Can't
me?
you email me?
Or text me? But Kelly's up and she's drunk, which is just like, God, just demeaning these women in any way possible. Like, why does Kelly have to be drunk right now?
Exactly.
But anyway, Kelly says, I'm in and I've already been thinking about it. I have a plan. I have people in place. Like, we're going to do the thing. Okay, well, Antoinette says, we need to get up at the ass crack of dawn and be at the Capitol early, because we need to enact our plan.
Uh-huh.
And then we get one more reference to that damn pig hollering video, as if it is so funny. But Antoinette's trying to leave the house with Shamika, and she's clearly trying to avoid her kids. And I had totally forgotten, because it was such a stupid gag, that the reason she's trying to avoid the kids is because they had seen that Freaknik documentary and saw their mom twerking in the video.
Mm-hmm.
So Antoinette doesn't want to talk to her kids about it. And then Basil is being so... why is Basil in the mansion?
I don't know.
He doesn't work for her. She doesn't like him. He's always in the way.
You know, unfortunately, she needs to kick Shamika to the curb because Shamika's not doing her any favors.
I don't pray, but I pray.
Okay.
That her new team let her know that Shamika needs to
listen. Shamika,
hit the bricks.
Shamika was your, first stage out the door. With what do they call it? Starter friend.
She was your starter friend.
She was your starter cabinet.
Let's
okay.
elevate.
Yes.
Okay. So they get to the office and Henry, Antoinette's current chief of staff, is trying to tell her and she goes, oh no. Because he sees a bunch of people in line, like in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who are these people? Oh, these are candidates for your job.
What do you want to bet that the way Tyler Perry works, those were actually people auditioning for a concurrent project?
Well, he does put people to work. And, he recently, in response to all his critics, he said something to the effect of like, I've made more Black millionaires than any other studio in this city, like Hollywood, which is true. He has done a lot for a lot of people. So, I mean, I don't want to take that away from him.
No, sure. But money is a part of it. Everybody should be paid their worth, of course. But what's the legacy?
Well, let's not even. I feel like we're just always beating a dead horse talking about.
Well, just like years from, we watch movies, say from the 70s, like the golden era of American filmmaking, and when by and large Black people didn't have a foot in the door, but there's a reverence held for high quality things. It's like, so can't we try to make? Can't you try to make your shit better?
I'm tired of talking about that with Tyler Perry. It's never going to happen. So let's just talk about this series. But anyway. So Henry is like, who are these people? These are candidates for your new job. What? So what, you're getting rid of me? Yeah, I can hire my own staff. And then immediately the 3 friends walk in, Kelly and TC Carson and Tequila. And Kelly introduces herself to Henry as Antoinette's new chief of staff.
Uh-huh. So
then I have the same question. Who are these people in line? Because we were told they were candidates for chief of staff.
Right. I don't know. Well, I think that was just to shut him down.
Sure. But the consistency of things, inconsistency. But then Henry immediately runs to Jed's office.
Well, this is where
to Jed.
This is where Tyler Perry always reveals his self with the details, because he goes into Jed's office. It's supposed to be like 6 a.m. at this point.
Jed even mentions like, I'm trying to do this stuff before the governor gets in. So it's supposed to be early in the morning.
He's ordering pizza for lunch. And
he's ordering it like he's waiting for it to come now. But it's like before breakfast time. He wasn't ordering it for like, oh, I want it dropped off at 1 o'clock.
No.
He's saying, well, can it wait till my food shows up?
Uh-huh.
And he's ordering it like, I want this now.
Exactly.
So stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Henry goes to talk to Jed like, oh my gosh, like Antoinette has realized that she can hire her own staff and she's going to replace you too.
I don't understand how that.
But how's that possible? He's
the governor's
chief of staff. Okay. Then we get a series of, again with the gay jokes, we get a series of like innuendo between Jed and Henry, like twice. That yes. Like I'm not like that. Because Jed is supposed to not be gay and Henry clearly is. Although his sexuality hasn't been brought into play at all. So like this is how we want to introduce the fact that he's gay. Okay. All right. So the plan is that there's going to be a press conference this day and clearly Antoinette's going to blow up the spot. So she goes in to speak to the governor and the governor's like, great, you're here. You look really nice. He makes a weird joke about her being colored, but he's talking about her dress, not her skin tone. And then he says, here, this is your speech you're going to say. Well, I didn't write the speech. That's okay. You just have to read it and just agree with everything I say. Well, I don't know if that's right. Oh, you don't, just do what I tell you to do. So she gets out there and the governor starts talking. He starts saying he makes another weird colored joke. He references Auntie Grandma,
who is standing in the back on the stairway with Antoinette's staff. I don't know why.
And yeah,
I don't know. Why
I don't know why.
But then he, of course, the governor starts talking about the old woman that raised him, the Lulabelle, who they let die on the property. It's like, what?
He said we let her live on our land until the day she died, but she had to work.
What year is this?
And then when he introduces Antoinette, he goes, she's articulate, surprisingly. He just is, they're just really, really accentuating the fact that he is just racist and inappropriate.
I mean, the governor, he seems like an ex-crackhead. He makes me uncomfortable. He's like if Martin Sheen in The Dead Zone had a crack bender and then came back
I think
to politics.
Even in the state of Mississippi, his behavior would be, and I know this is supposed to be a comedy, but it's just so heavy-handed.
It's like, cringy.
That it feels like, I mean, what's the movie Watermelon Man? Or
oh yeah,
when you think about what year was that? 70?
I think 1970.
When you think about that movie and how like it's provocative and satirical.
Everything Melvin Van Peebles did.
But you just think like something from 55 years ago.
Yeah, Godfrey Cambridge
feels more
fresh.
Feels more fresh and biting and funny.
Sluts, all of you sluts. Soon you'll be smoking cigarettes.
Than this shit.
Yep.
But anyway, Antoinette gets on the mic and she basically is saying, I don't agree with what the governor's saying. I have issues with the pipeline. Then there's this white lady reporter. Also, just to back up a little bit, talking about the reporters, there are many black reporters in the audience who are moaning over what the governor's saying.
Right.
So it's like, has he not felt any backlash? He makes a comment about like how the state, like they don't have a sense of humor except for 36.1% of them, which apparently is the black population in Mississippi. But this white lady reporter asks about this chemical plant. Where did this chemical plant come from?
I don't know. It's suddenly looming above them. Like,
why would they add that when we already know the key issue is the pipeline?
I don't know.
Let's talk about the pipeline.
But it's also interesting that it's the white lady reporter that's so adamantly trying to get to Antoinette.
Right. And she's trying to highlight Antoinette's voice.
All of the black journalists are just like, whatever.
One of them staring at the camera.
Yeah, one lady looks dead ass in the camera.
Can we talk about the camera work? Because I felt like the inconsistencies in how this scene is edited, it just feels like I did it.
Mm-hmm. It's just hokey political comedy that didn't doing anyone any favors.
So, but this is what didn't we say this like episode 2 that this is what this show should be?
Yes, it should have that energy. Yeah.
And while I still don't think that this is a good example of good writing, good satirical comedic writing, I do think for this series so far, this was the best episode, and this I'm hoping will be the energy we get in the next 8 episodes.
See, the other problem is that everything is too stretched out, and Tyler's inability creeps in far too many times because you get the sense in this episode this is where Terri J. Vaughn is actually letting it rip for a minute at least.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I bet you this was her vision, and this is her getting to have the moment she envisioned.
Yes, exactly. So after she has her moment, she goes, the governor is steaming. And she follows him back to his office, and he is mad. And he's asking his assistant for some antacid, and he's screaming at her. And
he's got a bottle of Milana that he's not really drinking out of, but
and it all culminates in him telling Antoinette, never outshine the master. And then I thought the best writing of the series so far is her talking about how she is offended, that she's been respectful, that she expects the same in return. And then she starts talking about what her vision was for this position and what she intends to do. And it's like, damn, that little, like, what was it? 60 seconds was what this should have been all along. But make it funny. And then that sends the governor into a medical emergency,
which we also
saw
predicted. Coming from a mile off.
So then, of course, I'm assuming part 2 is that Antoinette will have to take over as governor, and she will get some shit done.
I don't think that pipeline is going to happen the way they want it.
So part 2 continues August 14th.
I don't know why that's such a strange amount of time for us to be absent from these characters, because I don't know how much we're going to remember, but.
Well, thankfully they are so basic and don't do much that I don't think we would need. I don't know how I could forget them entirely and pick up right where I left off. But let's, so this, I'm getting a little emotional because.
Oh yeah.
Well, we invested a lot of time and effort into watching this.
Yeah.
And it was all for you, Damien, for all you people out there who seem to like when we do this shit. But how does this compare to Beauty in Black? Another Tyler Perry series on Netflix we reviewed.
I mean, Beauty in Black's more entertaining, but it's
by multiples,
but not consciously so.
But that's what makes it so funny. It's camp.
Yes, it's missing. I think we kind of talked about this because this is comedy is harder than drama, I think, because you have to have expert comedic skills, comedic timing. Like there's really, I think, a lot more that goes into comedy. And when you fail miserably at comedy,
it's painful.
It's the stumbling seems to fall a lot farther. Whereas, failed comedy, aka or drama, aka camp, that's its own kind of pleasure.
Yes.
Because it turns into comedy. So where does comedy go when it dies? It just dies.
So when we were watching those episodes of Beauty in Black, which were twice as long, so it, while this took us 4 hours to watch, Beauty in Black took us 8 hours to watch the first part.
Right.
I did look forward to Beauty in Black much more. Watching every episode of this after the first one was a chore.
Yeah.
Which is not the function of a silly comedy show. Like, I mean, I just don't understand how you mess that up. But yeah,
But and also, Beauty in Black has a
more appealing cast.
Well, not that I think Terri J. Vaughn is appealing,
and T.C. Carson now has entered the fold, and I enjoy him.
Yes, and Karen Riley, even though I was unfamiliar with him before this, but like you got Richard Lawson and
Debbie Morgan,
T.S. Madison. Like they're a lot of fun personalities.
Rico Ross,
yes. Oh yeah, Rico.
Yeah, the main. Well, and even like, I still remember a lot of that show.
Yes.
Because it was so ludicrous. And I would absolutely watch season 2 of Beauty in Black.
Well, it's so weird to see Rico Ross now because, Aliens is one of my favorite, like tied for my top film of all time. So I'm very familiar with him as a younger man. So seeing him there.
Depending on how this video podcast performs, I would say we will watch part 2. I mean, I feel like we kind of have to, but and it, it's only 4 hours, but it's I did not enjoy this. What would you give episodes 1 through 8 out of 5?
I'm probably a 1.
I might give it 0.5.
Oh wow.
It was not fun. I mean, this is like a comedic sitcom. I mean, I guess that's what the sitcom is, a situational comedy, but this is a sitcom. 24 minutes each episode, and they just were so like there are moments,
there are brief flashes, yes,
maybe one per episode that I think, oh, that's kind of funny,
I don't know,
or that is legitimately funny.
What was it, 4 or 5? Those were kind of rough ones.
But like it just fails so miserably at what it's doing to me, because I expect more in 2025. I think this might have, I don't even know that I would have found this amusing 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's also dated and so ragged. Like, I mean, the construction of it is so raggedy.
Again, though, comedy's difficult, and
it did end on a high note for this particular show. So I'm hoping that momentum goes into part 2, and it won't be such a chore to get through.
Oh, I doubt that.
Do you have any final words, or can we be done?
We can be done.
All right. Until
we meet again.
Until we meet again. Ta-ta.